so excited to talk to you about this show because this thing is so cool. And when you first heard about it, you must have just almost immediately thought, "Oh, I got to do this," right?
Well, when I first heard about it, I was sent it, and it was shot and edited and pretty much done, which isn't always the case. Often I'll get on
Yeah.
before filming's even going, and but it was pretty much sort of done. At least the first 5 episodes that was sent, and I loved it
Mhm.
immediately. Yeah, I loved it immediately. I mean, I was sent it with other music temped in. Actually, a lot of it was my own music from other shows, like
Mhm.
Mindhunter and other like that.
Yeah.
And that's I have to like purposely try to expunge that from my mind
Yeah.
immediately. But luckily I only saw it that way once, and so that I was able to brush that all off, and we were able to do something like solely original and unique for the show. But I love it, and I loved working with Blake. I loved working with Apple again on this, and Sony was
Mhm.
incredible. It was just a really great experience, and they let me do what I do best, which is go out there, try to get
Yeah.
as far out as humanly possible in a way that works. And I worked with my friend Jake Pinto on it, on most of the score, and we just had a blast doing it. But the show turned out terrific. I'm really happy with the show. I think people are going to love it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's got to be kind of nice to be able to see the full thing because sometimes, you do get just sketches or just ideas or maybe a script and that's it. But now you get to play completely in the world, which is a really cool world.
Well, that's exactly right, because you never know. Like, you can read a script a million different ways, and it's sort of like, what
Mhm.
the question is, like, what is the director really? What is the thing that they think they're making? What like, what is the thing?
Mhm.
That's usually like the sort of question you ask. Like, what is it that you think you're making? Um, but this was, yeah, you could see it, and people love the book, and it was really great to know that the guy that wrote the book was actually making the show as well.
Yeah.
So it had a cohesion to it, even though it's different. But I think it's expanded more. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
phenomenal. I can't. I'm really happy for people to see, because I really love the music, and I'm really happy for people to hear the album too. We put together an album that's coming out the same day of the score.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard it. How much have you seen? Have you seen any of the episodes? Or
Oh yeah, yeah. They sent me a little bit to watch a little bit of it, so I've seen the first one.
Ooh. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm excited. The premiere is on Monday, and I'm excited to see it
Mhm.
again. So
Oh yeah, on the biggest screen possible, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
Yeah.
way God intended
Well,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it's funny timing too. Looking for the music because Pearl Jam just released an album this week with the same title, right?
Oh, oh, that's. Oh my God. That I didn't realize it was being this week, but I remember reading somewhere along the lines and seeing that with the name of their new album. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. That's going to be
Well,
confusing.
it might be, but it could be a good boost too. You
You're
never
absolutely
know.
right. Actually, people will type in dark matter, and boom,
There
at
you
least
go.
you're right. It could be. It could
Well,
be.
well, you've been through all that with the record company and music business gauntlet anyway, right?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I've been through it all in my career at this point. Because I came from playing in bands since I was 12 years old, and touring the world and making records and signing to major labels and indie labels and the whole bit, and publishing companies, and I had a whole life before I even got into film. And way back in
Mhm.
I guess the first thing I ever did in film was I did the trailer for Gone Girl with David Fincher, and that opened up my world into
Yeah.
to film. And then he and I did Mindhunter and Voir and Love, Death, and Robots, and commercials
Mhm.
together, and all sorts of stuff together. So yeah, but that started me on this sort of path, and I just fell in love with working in film, because you could go so
Oh,
far out, you could stretch out in ways that you can't in regular music format. Which although it on my songs that I do now, um, I stretch out far, because there's no rules.
yeah.
What do I care? It's like like I'll just go out, and I would do that. I think that's one of the reasons why uh, David Fincher first hired me in the first place, is because he could actually hear how out there I would go
Mhm.
in sort of pop music realm, not pop. We were obviously like my band was
Yeah.
like a rock, but or whatever you call it. But we would go out there, do weird shit with choirs and strings and all sorts of crazy stuff. So
Yeah, I
but
love that. Of course, you've had a really, really interesting career, and like you said, you've done all those things, and you know, had enough fun for 10 people, I'm sure. And so people look up on that stage too and say, this is what I want to do, but certainly harder than you might think. And so, what kind
yeah.
of advice do you give to someone that wants to follow in your path?
Um, I think work. I always tell people like that. You can. The only way to really make it in the music business, it's like if you want to make money, go into banking or some shit, or like but if you have to do this,
Mm.
which I did, you have to sort of be a lifer for it. You have to like you have to be somebody that makes music even when they're not supposed to be making music,
Hmm.
for their fun, for their sort of therapy, for their just the curiosity of it, the thrill
Hmm.
of it. But so you have to sort of be a lifer, and you have to work really hard at it. In my case, I never had like a plan B. There was never, didn't matter if I was broke in my 20s, I was going to figure it out. It wasn't there just wasn't any other choice. And so I think
Yeah.
for me, it was like a gift and a disease at the same time. It was sort of like there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to do it. When I'm not making music for this thing, I'm making music for myself and writing songs. And I just I have albums and albums that I just never release, but because I just always have to create and make stuff. And but I think work really hard and recognize opportunities when they come. I think
Hmm.
and then just work your ass off and try to do better and more, and believe in what you're doing. And quite honestly, and this might be what some people totally disagree with in terms of film and stuff, don't give them what they ask for, give them what you think they should have, like
Hmm.
musically, like I've never been like a yes man, and and to the dismay of some people, I'm sure. But because I will argue for what I think is an original thought as being an
Hmm.
artist, and if people don't like it, then they won't hire me, and that's fine.
Hmm.
That's great. That means it's not a right fit. But have conviction, and just uh, really work hard. And when you get these opportunities, you have to just really dive in
Hmm.
and you know completely, and just do the best thing that you can, and at the and then and don't second guess so much, like
Hmm.
move forward, learn to move forward. I think the greatest gift I have sort of developed, or I don't know if it's a gift or it's not a gift, it's a part of the craft, I guess, is the ability to decide and move forward and finish
Hmm.
ideas and then move on to the next ideas, because as artists we can just stick around in that no man's land of unfinished work. And the great thing about working in film is which I know a lot of other people don't do, but I often will write something and immediately that evening send it off to the
Yeah.
director, and just so it's off my plate and I can move on to the next thing, and I might come back to it with notes or whatever. The scene might change, so we have to adapt this or whatever it is. But I tend to like to move quickly and fast and not overthink things. And I think in general in life that's often a good thing. But I'm slow and methodical about other stuff. It's just with creating, I think it's really good to not let the analytical mind disrupt the movement forward.
Yeah, well said. My co-host Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, got the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame. We're so proud of him. He wanted
Yeah.
me to make sure I asked you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Well, there's been several, but certainly I was signed in a band. I was in a band with my buddies, called Convoy. Really loved the band, and we were signed to a label in out of New York, subsidiary of Atlanta called Metropolitan.
Hmm.
And we owed them a record. We had made the record. They would have given it. We were broke as can be. It was in our mid-20s, but we had become disillusioned with the label for many reasons. We could go on for about 20 minutes on that one, but and just certain aspects of the band and all of this sort of stuff. And I woke up one morning and I just wanted to have a change. And in hindsight, I was broke, and we should have just given them this record, taken the $75,000, which at the time would have been huge for us. Like suddenly we're almost millionaires. Well, just because we could pay our rent and things like that, like and eat for the year or half the year, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But we should have, we could have or should have, we just given them that record, and then whatever, put it out and maybe toured it a little bit, maybe even not, and started this new band. But in the response was, because my father had had a stroke very soon before, and I just kind of came to this realization of, am I really proud of what I've done? Have I done my best work? And what will make me do my best work? And I just needed a change, and the sort of chameleon aspect to my personality that needs to constantly be doing new things in different ways. And anyway, so we basically dismantled that band and started a new band. Me and two of the other members of that group, we started Louis XIV, and within a year we had signed a massive record deal with Atlantic Records and massive publishing deal with Sony, and we're touring the world, and on the cover of NME magazine, and in Spin and Rolling Stone, all this sort of stuff, because of this chance that we took by starting completely from scratch and starting completely over, and really just reinventing ourselves and the music that we wanted to make. And that was that sort of Hail Mary that really paid off. And then and because of those things, I have a career in film because of essentially David's wife and David Fincher being a fan of that music, and so he hired me to Gone Girl and then Mindhunter and blah blah blah, and that started my career this way. So you sometimes you have to give up things to open up space for something wonderful to happen.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool, and very inspirational too, And we talk about that success mindset on the show, whether you're feeling it or not, because sometimes us creative types are, we're a little hard on ourselves. So is there something that you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on the right path even when things are tough?
Well, I think you have to recognize that you're going to make great stuff and some stuff that's not as great, or just different perceptions on that stuff, and it doesn't have to represent you at all times. I think when you're the more you create, the more you do, the more you recognize that tomorrow you'll create something new, and the next day you'll create something new, the next day. And so to give yourself a break from it having to represent you at all times, and that gives you the freedom to play, because to me it's like you're playing with Legos. Essentially you're just putting things together without any directions, and you're just kind of trying things out, and you might love this thing today, and maybe the next day you'll love something else, and you'll look back on that and go, I don't know about that, or whatever it is. And maybe 10 years from now you'll look back at something. Like I listened to a record that we made for Louis XIV, our last record, and for the longest time I could only hear the effort put into it, because it was an exhausting record to make. It was all these massive string parts, and it was this gorgeous, radical, crazy, unique record. And I've been listening to it lately because we just decided to do a new show for the first time in many years. On June 1st at this festival in North Park in San Diego. And so I went back I'm in New York for the week, but I happened, like on the way to the airport, I listened to the record, and I was just so excited about it to come back to it with fresh ears. And I was just, texting the guys going, this is fucking amazing. Like how, like in my memory, it was all the effort. It was all the hardship between the band, the sort of thing that helped almost break us up in the first place. I could only hear that. So it was like emotionally exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted before I even heard the record to listen to it. And then when I actually, on fresh ears and a new place in life, coming back to it, it was like, oh, wow, incredible. This is incredible. Wow. This is, how did we how did I not think this was incredible? You know, that kind of stuff. But I think the ability to keep not letting it represent you, because and just give yourself a break about it. Let yourself just create and play, because without that ability to play, you can't do anything. And again, the analytical mind will come in and tell you, oh, why you shouldn't do this, or why you shouldn't do this thing, or whatever. That it'll destroy it all. And you just have to play. A kid that's playing, the core of a kid just playing in a playground, isn't thinking about every step he makes. He's just playing. And you have to do that with art. You just have to. Otherwise, you're not going to create anything fun, anything exciting, anything surprising.
I love that. Well, I was going to ask when we were going to maybe get some more solo music, because I saw the single from last year. It's fantastic. But hey, maybe we'll get some more band stuff, right?
We'll probably get more band stuff. I do have I have essentially 2 solo records that I'm just sitting on that I'll probably put out little by little. I have a bunch of little side projects. Then, of course, I have the score album to Dark Matter that comes out May 8th. So there's lots of stuff, you know. It's really a matter of just I love to create. I love to create and make and make and make, but putting stuff out, that other thing is a whole different beast, you know. And that's I think a lot of artists are that way. It's like we like to create stuff and then move on to the next creation, but the marketing of stuff and, you know, like all that, that's the more daunting part, and the part that I've always I like the big idea of stuff, of creating the ideas of stuff, but actually the execution takes to put it all out is a whole different thing. And it's really not that difficult nowadays, but you know, I just move on to I'll create a song today instead of do this. I'll create another song. I'll create another song. And before you know it, you're just creating and creating and creating for years and years and years without releasing stuff. But the one beautiful thing about film and working in TV series and stuff like that is your work does get out there, and you don't have to actually be the one that puts it out, which is kind of exciting, you know.
Yeah. Well, you're in that sci-fi loop right now, so you know it's good. But what's great about this show is I think it's going to make a lot of people think, and you know, as a lot of great, you know, these great stories do, and probably got in your head a little bit. So I guess last thing, what is it?
I was just going to say that during the making of it, we were constantly talking like scientific ideas, which is really fun in the studio. Me and my collaborator on it, Jake Pinto, and my assistant, or my engineer, David Llewellyn, and we would sit there and just constantly like pause and then discuss the concepts of the show, which was really exciting and really fun. And then, you know, I'd call up Blake or text him and say this thought or that thought, you know. But yeah, it really, really makes you think, the show, in a really interesting way, and constantly sort of like you get to a few episodes, and we scored it as we were making it. So we scored it episode 1, then episode 2, then 3, then 4, like so. And I purposely didn't allow us to watch the whole thing through, so we would be inspired when it came time to do. So there was times when we were doing, like, I remember episode 8 that we really wanted to rush through it so we could just get to 9, just to watch what was going to happen, you know. And but we didn't, you know, we just kind of kept in order so we would be excited about it. But we were constantly talking the ideas. It's a really interesting, you know, I remember by around like episode 6 or 7 or something, it was sort of like, oh yeah, oh my God, this is, of course this is happening. This is what would happen in this sort of scientific arena type thing, you know, like really fun conceptualizing type of a show.
Have fun. I love that, and I think that's why people are just going to absolutely love the show. That's really what I wanted to know there. It's kind of like your mindset going through and just watching it as well too, because it's really, really special. So I can't wait for everybody to check it out.
Oh yeah. I mean, because often
I can't wait to see the rest.
Yeah, it's great. It's really a great show, and often in when we're making shows, it's sort of like you're constantly making jokes about whatever show you're working on. I mean, whatever it is. It's just sort of like gallows humor or whatever. You're just constantly, you know, almost finding holes in stuff sometimes, you know, just for fun, sort of like, well, how would this happen? there wasn't that on this show. There was the wow, this idea, like it was the concepts that were, it's so exciting to sort of to rummage through these concepts and Blake's brain and the whole bit. It was a blast to do. It's what makes all the difference when you're doing something that you know is good. Like not just the music. I mean the show. Like when you're actually working on a good show. Sometimes, as you said earlier, like you just don't know with the script or this or that it could turn out to be a nightmare. You know, I luckily haven't had too many, but there's been a couple of instances when I've been working on something and you're like, oh fuck, this is terrible. Oh my gosh. Should I continue working on this? I don't know, you know. And in those particular cases, both those cases, I got off the project because I realized I can't do this justice because I don't like this. I don't like this. And I don't like their approach. Usually it often involves somebody going, make music like Hans Zimmer or some shit like that. And it's like, if you're going to ask me at all to vibe anybody, it better be 60 years old, you know, like I'm not going to vibe anybody that's still living, or if they're living, they better be way up there in years. But yeah, like, you know, I don't like to do that kind of aspect. You know, I don't like to copy anybody, let alone, you know, somebody from last.
That's why you are who you are, and why we've always enjoyed your music, and so happy to hear the band's getting back together. Might have to get to San Diego then, huh?
Yeah. Please, if you do come out, let me know. I'll get you on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great, man. Well, we're so happy to connect with you. So happy for this show. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna say too much about it, but I can't wait for everybody to see it. And then looking forward to connecting with you again sometime soon.
I hope so. All right. Well, thanks a lot for the appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.